Hello, I'm Mark, and I'm the husband to Bernice, who is the ME Goddess, and she's asked me to start doing a bit of, is it vlogging, I think they call it these days, video blogging, a little bit about what it's like living with someone with fairly severe ME, and probably a little bit about what that means to me, how that affects me, and how I cope and deal with that. There are highs and lows, and I'm not entirely sure where to start on the whole thing, so I guess probably from the beginning. So just over 5 years ago, Bernice became ill, and we had no idea what that was. We think now, in retrospect, it was linked to some kind of booster to prevent whooping cough, I think it was, I don't remember. And she became ill, and for about 2 years we went through a process of going through all sorts of specialists to try and find out what the chronic pain in her knees were, and we were bounced from sort of pillar to post, and nobody had the answers, and we didn't really know where to go or what to look for. She was on a lot of medication, and it was clear that that was not really doing any good. And I think eventually it was an endocrinologist and a neurologist kind of put their heads together and thought, oh well, maybe this falls into the bucket of ME, or Myalgia Encephalomyelitis. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but I'm sure I can be corrected. So yeah, so it was a bit of a tricky one at the time. We were kind of we were unsure whether it was going to fall into something along the lines of fibromyalgia or potentially multiple sclerosis or ME, and we really didn't know what that was. And so I guess when we found that out, there was a bit of a sense of relief on the one hand, but also some difficulties dealing with the medical fraternity and their GP at the time, who simply didn't acknowledge that such a thing as ME existed, or were in this group of people that thought, right, well, like most things to do with fibromyalgia, that could be cured with sort of gradual increase in exercise and progressive exercise therapy and some cognitive behavioural therapy. I should just add now that we know that actually shouldn't be the treatment for these sorts of things, as far as we're aware. But at that time, the medical fraternity was basing information off a study done in the UK, which has since been debunked, and because they had to release some raw data, and people are coming up with all sorts of other conclusions as a result of that. So no idea what was going on there, but it certainly didn't help matters for anyone suffering from this awful condition or their families around them. So at that time I was continuing working, and it became increasingly obvious that Bernice wasn't going to get better anytime soon, and we've sort of, over the years that she's had this, come to this kind of realisation that she's probably not going to improve, and if she does, more than likely we'll go back. If she goes into remission, it'll only be for a year or two at most, and the symptoms will return, and it's probably a hard thing to deal with. So talking a little bit about dealing with it, I guess whilst it's not completely a bury my head in the sand approach, I kind of do try not to look at this, because it's a really, really, really big thing to deal with, and sometimes if I open myself up to that just becomes overwhelming. It is what it is, and so that's I guess is our normal, as she slowly deteriorates over time. And we've got 2 children, ages 5 and 9, and somewhere along the line we have to make sure that they're okay with this, and that we're all okay with this, and that we can live with it. I was fortunate enough to be in a position to have been made redundant. Not many people say that, I guess, but it was fortunate in our circumstances almost 2 years ago. Having personally tried to look after Bernice and the kids for a few years, and maintain a job which required a high level of commitment. I found myself completely stressed out, and at one stage actually went to a doctor who said, well, basically you've burnt out some of the receptors in your brain, and you're probably going to have to be on antidepressants for the rest of your life. So it was a bit of a hit. It's now become our normal. As long as I remember to take them, I'm okay, and if I'm not, I'm excessively grumpy, and everybody tells me to take my pills. So yeah, so I think it's in all our interests that I continue to do so. Had I not been in that job and was just looking after Bernice and the kids, then perhaps that would have been different. But Brainiac here thought he could take it all on and failed epically. So now, instead of doing that, I am a very successful caregiver, and for Bernice and the kids, I'm quite happy in doing that, and it's taken quite some time to get there. I'm not sure whether we'll talk about that in a later vlog, if there is such a word. Sounds very Scandinavian. Or whether Bernice wants me to carry on talking for a little bit here. Yes, love?
Oh no, we can probably wind this one up soon.
I have a tendency to talk too much and go into too many details sometimes, but that's just my nature. Bye!